Hello, my creative friend. Today I'm going to read to you about one of the greatest legends of Hollywood. I hope you like James Dean and that learning something new about him would be an interesting thing to hear. And as you hear how he has transformed in his life, perhaps take inspiration from that and see where can things click for you. How can you connect something that's not looking at the moment like you can connect it, but sure, there is a way. Enjoy. Working with Brookshire and Owen had the comfort of kind of maternal nurturing, but Whitmore was serious business. Jimmy would not embarrass himself, nor would he readily risk rejection. Then one afternoon, Jimmy and Bill were asked to improvise a scene. Whitmore spoke to each separately. Bast was to act the part of a jeweler who had repaired a stolen wristwatch brought to him by Jimmy, a petty thief. The scene was to proceed with Bast struggling to detain Jimmy until the police arrived. To Jimmy, Whitmore gave instructions that he was to get the watch back at any cost, fleeing the scene to avoid capture. The two apprentices tried several times, but the class was restless with boredom. Nothing the pair did generated excitement. Either Bast finally gave up the watch or Jimmy departed without it. No drama, no tension, no revelation of character. Whitmore interrupted the dull proceedings to discuss concentration and character motivation, to explain how a character's history might be revealed through gesture and information, and how mood could be heightened through carefully placed pauses and implication of unexpected violence. That was all Jimmy needed. The two began again, and thus Bast, the noticeable change that came over Jimmy was almost frightening. Nothing mattered but getting the watch back, and his insistence fueled Bill's. Finally, the two actors were so involved in their respective character dilemmas that they were throwing punches. Whitmore had to shout a halt to the scene. From that moment on, Bast concluded everything he heard, everything he read, everything he did seemed to have a new meaning for Jimmy. Until then, he had understood everything, but now he was able to apply it. He had, in other words, gone deeper through an exercise in imaginative identification. For a few moments, he had been freed from mere intellection. He had found something of his own experience, something truthful about himself in the role, and so he had been able to lose himself in it. He had discovered an essential principle of what they had discussed theoretically and the so-called method school of acting, the very same theory that was much discussed with a special regard to Marlon Brando and his mentor Elia Kazan. "I owe a lot to James Whitmore," Jimmy said later. "I guess you can say he saved me when I got all mixed up. He told me I didn't know the difference between acting as a soft job and acting as a difficult art. I needed to learn these differences. And from another part of the same book, the emotional impact of the last half hour as Dean, Wood, and Minio form a private domestic circle before finally returning to the dark world of violence has at its center a remarkably controlled performance from Jimmy, who had clearly learned a great deal from Kazan about focus and concentration, and who was, at last, comfortable with Ray and confident with his new status. I don't know that he could have articulated where, from deep inside him, that performance originated, said Corey Allen, but he had an innate appreciation of Jim Stark's condition. There was a new maturity in his work of Rebel. In his portrait of pain and confusion, James Dean pushed to the limits. For a new generation, the notion that it was all right to feel insecure, to be uneasy about the present and fearful of the future. And so he was, a powerful yet tender man without the sullen withdrawal projected by Marlon Brando or the highly neurotic anguish communicated by Montgomery Clift. In Rebel Without a Cause, James Dean's Jim Stark gave a warning, but he also invited the sympathy of adults, even as he evoked the empathy of adolescents. The picture itself is excellent, cheered Jack Warner in a studio memorandum. Dean is beyond comprehension. As testimony to his enthusiasm, he gave Jimmy billing above the title. Doubtless, he had been informed that the studio mailroom was now flooded with over 1,000 fan letters a week addressed to James Dean. Had the star lived to see the completed film, he might well have understood the remark of Dennis Stock, who worked on the production team. When you saw Rebel Without a Cause, that was Jimmy you were seeing up there on the screen. This sentiment was shared by many who knew Dean. And in this regard, it is often said that the best performers never appear to be performing at all, and that in their greatest roles, something true to themselves is found in the characters they portray. If that is a tenable criterion for assessing the results of such arduous work, young James Dean may be called a great actor.